All righty. Oh wait, hold on. I don't know if that recorded. All right. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. How are you doing today, James?
I'm doing pretty good. Ray, how about yourself?
I'm doing good. Yeah, today has been a good day. Been having a better week, and work's been easy, been flowing, and feel like I'm getting back into the swing of some things. So it's been good. How
Oh,
was your getaway? Or do we call it a getaway? What would you call it?
we could call it birthday celebration. So we touched on it a little bit in the last episode, but yeah, I just recently had a birthday and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So I guess just to share audience, and again, welcome to the Grace Acceptive All podcast. Um, um, we don't. We're just going to talk out a topic. We both came in kind of feeling open and free flowing, and so the topic shall evolve as we roll. I probably didn't even have to say that, so I might edit it out.
Hey, you can keep it in. You can. Sometimes I like to let people know the vibe. Sometimes,
Yeah,
sometimes it's helpful. So
that's true. That's true. So yeah, I had a good birthday celebration. It was it was a blend. So I intentionally, well, again, let's stick with the theme that I've been on lately. Is I kind of tuned into the universe or to spirit or listened for guidance and got the message to, because usually I go to the beach. And I was even looking to go to the beach, just kind of trying to plan or see what days and how I could squeeze it in. And then opportunity came up to go to a cabin in a nearby national forest. And I was like, okay, I'll just go with that. The opportunity presented itself. I haven't been to the beach all this year. So I was like, all right, I'll roll with that. And then the vibe too was to split it up. So I was in community for part of it, the celebration. I was even had a session with a friend of mine, because I routinely still work on myself and to continue to grow and evolve and get insights and clarities and all this good stuff. So I had that on Wednesday, or I had that session, spent time in community, and then me and my family, we do a celebration. So we get together, have cake and ice cream and gifts and stuff like that. And then after that, I went out into the woods. So it was a combination of community, family, self-care or self growth, and then silence and nature. So all of my favorite activities. It was
nice.
It was quite pleasant. Yeah,
I love that. Sounds very nice. Very, very cool. Yeah, you usually do go to the beach. So that must have been a nice little change. And awesome. But yeah, I think one thing I love about you and myself, James, is like I do always love to just tell you, like I did in the last episode. You're one of the people that when I tell them happy birthday, I feel very comfortable saying, I'm so glad you went around the planet again. And it's so nice, being able to interact with your soul throughout the years. Like, I feel like I can kind of tell you exactly how it feels to what birthdays mean to me, kind of. And I feel very free to express that where some people are like, oh, like it's just another year older. And I was like, I don't know. I get to kind of express what I feel in my heart that each of us are here to do, interact with, and enjoy, kind of thing. So you're one person that when I remember I used to could send you a text in a paragraph, but like, so glad your soul is going on another trip this year. We're happy to have you, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that, Ray. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it definitely is. Celebration, I do find it very important. And actually, which was even more special about this year was that I haven't traveled much. I know, especially with recent events in the world and stuff like that. Some people still been traveling, but I really haven't traveled that much in the past couple of years. And especially this year, my schedule's been really, really busy or active. So I've been like super focused, and for the most part, unless it was for work, I stayed local. And I'm trying to think, maybe one or two, I can't really recall. So what did resonate was like, I do enjoy having that opportunity because I'm pretty much sure, probably like 99% sure, 98% sure that when my birthday comes around, I'm going to do something. I'm going to take some type of time and acknowledge it and do something special for myself. And this time, being out, oh my gosh, like, so another thing we can talk about and maybe share with the audience is I'm definitely very aware on my journey now of how sensitive I am to energy, or how much connected in energy that the world is. Now, some people may have a different existence or have a different perspective, which obviously leads to a different experience. But based on my perspective, it includes this awareness of maybe people may call it oneness or the collective, or again, there's this energetic connection or field that's shared amongst the world. So it felt so good to be surrounded in nature, because living in a major city, especially in New Orleans, we have a lot of special energy that happens here. And to have that time out in nature and just almost like let my guard down, but just really be aware of, okay, the openness, feel that nurture, feel that it rained. One day it was sunny and the other day it like rained. So the cabin I was staying in, it rained off and on, but the cabin I was staying in had a tin roof. And I just loved having the window open and hearing the rain fall. And I was like sitting on the porch, watching the rain come down, just soaking it all in, quote unquote. And again, hearing those drops, to me, those therapeutic drops on the tin roof, and it was a friend's property, and I guess this can be a plug. So it's a site called the Borough in Lumberton, Mississippi. I guess I'll leave that in. Yeah, because advertisement. And so the property sits on about 100, I think it's 111 acres that's in a national forest. And so pretty much what happened was there's campsites and there's cabins and then there's other spaces there and other activities. But it was really only me and two campers, I think, were on the whole lot. So basically, I was on this acreage of land, multi-acreage of land by myself. Almost by myself. And so just again to sit and absorb that versus in comparison to the usual daily grind or daily experience of, okay, like we talked about before in a previous episode, seeing like in New Orleans, I see there's everything here, everything across the board here. This is not a cookie cutter city. It's not it's a very expressive, diverse, multi-layered place. And that was it was very healing, very, very very nurturing. Yeah. Very nurturing. Mm-hmm.
I love that. How you're describing nature. I was listening to a podcast today they're called The Minimalist. I was really into them a few years ago or maybe a couple years ago when I was decluttering my home and reorganizing things, and might have been just a year ago. I don't know, maybe over. Anyways, I was listening to them again. I haven't listened to their podcast in a while. And there was a topic about easing into death or something like that. And people were asking about, how come when people have cancer or they know their death is like more imminent, that people are able to see like these people start to let go and pull back and not take everything so seriously. And the guy he used to be a doctor, like active in the hospital, saw a lot of death, and he kind of removed himself. But he said there's something about like our bodies and like the water structure. I can't tell you all the science behind it, but basically he told me that people just start to accept and see life for what it is. When death is kind of staring them down, they start to really get to see what life is. And he recommended to lay down on the ground and look up through some trees at the blue sky, because the way that the light is so fractured and fractaled, it reminds us of what we are in the universe. And a lot of people were asking about how to deal with death and how to, like all these things, how to actually live like a person that's kind of passing away, for lack of a better term, in everyday life, and to be able to appreciate life like they do. And while he was talking about all that, it felt so peaceful that as I was driving on my route and listening to this, I just remember this like leaf falling from a tree. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And then I would just kind of stop at boxes and watch these other little leaves fall down, and saw the light go through a tree once. And I was like, yeah, life is really precious. And just hearing you talk about, the cabin and stuff, I think this is also why, when I want to travel, people think I'm a little like cuckoo bananas, but I love to do road trips. And I think part of those things is I go camping and I go out into the woods and I do hikes and I go to lakes. And it's like a moment to, enjoy nature and kind of what we are too. When I think about it, and I've kind of started to stop thinking about it. I like living in the city and I don't, because there is something so manufactured about the city, unlike being out into the woods. Something about that just feels way more natural and way more connected and like us, like something about the tree. I used to talk to trees. All right. Like that's what I used to do. And like, I don't talk to trees anymore. My therapist would probably say that's a good thing. But for me, I used to love like thinking that I knew the trees that I was walking under every day in this park, that to the point I actually kind of got really upset. My mom was very, she might have been very confused as to why when they started chopping down the trees in my park, I was very upset. I was not happy at all. So anyway, that just made me think about, becoming more present in life and being able to enjoy those moments before, can you imagine just like enjoying life every day as if, I hate to say it, as if we're not about to be here, but like it is, I do feel like I live more fully when I'm reminded that life it can be so short. So. So with that, I know we're kind of munching on that, James. I have a question for you. So like whenever you have a birthday, is there, I know you kind of said you like to have I know you said something about a session and you like to do a little trip on your birthday. Is there anything you ever like look back on? Do you do like a yearly review? Do you kind of like for your birthday, what's kind of your routine?
Well, I think each routine is indicative of where I'm at in life. Okay. And so for the past, this year and last year, it was very intentional to be reflective, it was actually very intentional to be by myself. So even last year when I did go to the beach, I intentionally went alone. And I remember last year, the vibe of the feeling was like, it was just something special about being by myself, like making my own decisions, being in silence, there being one train of thought, just completely focused in on myself. Because I think definitely last year, if I had brought someone else or invited someone else, my energy would have probably felt split. Even though the person, the travel would have been in order to celebrate me, and the person, in ways could have added to the experience. On some level, I feel like my attention or my focus would have been split, because again, it still would have been making decisions for two instead of one, or questioning or checking in with another person, or even just conversing versus like, if I'm by myself, if I make a decision, I just go do it versus having even to convey that decision or communicate that decision. And again, that also could be part of my personality of like, when I am with someone or with a group of people, I want other people to have a good time. Like other people having a good time helps me contributes to me having a good time. So last year, it was definitely like, I'm going solo. I knew I could enjoy myself by myself. And it also reminds me, I heard this quote yesterday, actually, I think from Sadhguru. I know it was from Sadhguru, but I think it was yesterday. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday. And he talked about the difference between being lonely and being alone.
Yeah.
And so I was so thankful, and I'm just paraphrasing it because I don't remember the exact talk word for word, but he was definitely talking about there being a disconnect when there's that feeling of loneliness versus just being alone. Because almost like we're talking about, he was going into this awareness of that there's a connection with everything, or there is a connection with the world around us that's happening all of the time. It's just sometimes in different situations, people can feel cut off to that, or a person can feel cut off to that. And that's even for me to say as well, too. Obviously, there's been time and moments in life, and definitely in previous years, to where I felt cut off to that. I felt alone. I felt like I needed now, mind you, I do enjoy company, but felt like I needed to have people around or have someone with me, or I might have felt disappointed of like, oh, I have no one to spend my birthday with, or, excuse me, that's my own expression of it. But that's my voice of me feeling sad about myself. I'm not, I wasn't to make fun of anybody else.
Right.
And so, yeah, it actually feels good to be at a space of where like, yeah, I can legit go do things alone, but I don't feel lonely.
Right.
And I can explore myself, enjoy myself, be by myself, feel still fulfilled. And even in that fulfillment, and this may be taken in a different direction, but even in that fulfillment, I can even see right now as I'm saying it, I probably had a lot more codependence. I mean, if I'm being, now that I say it, I had a lot of codependence earlier in life. And so, yeah, it kind of feels good to be at a space of I feeling more fulfilled and complete within myself to do things by myself. And then also at the same time, acknowledging that it's fun to have a partner, it's fun to have a companion, someone to do things with as well too. Like it is fun to share experiences. And so that's been the last 2 years. It's been it's been a singular experience.
Nice. Yeah, I think we're kind of the same in that way. I tend to like to spend my birthday alone too, which is I like to just do whatever I want to do. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, because when you do go on trips, you do have to ask people where they want to eat. And then, but what if I want to go eat somewhere else? Like I'm going to probably oblige them and things like that. So, and I will be interested in how my year goes with my new boyfriend, because, I'm used to taking trips by myself. I went to Austin by myself a couple of times, and I've gone there for a whole week before and just done whatever I want to. I don't really foresee me going on trips a lot by myself anymore. He'll probably be with me, and, maybe I will go one by myself. It is different. But going back to wanting to have people around, I was just telling one of my friends today, and I actually told my boyfriend yesterday, and I'm afraid of how it's going to sound. He sounded cool with when I said it, but I told him that our relationship reminds me of why I loved being single in a way, because I would have not given up being single for anyone else. And that's what I told him. I was like, I really like being single, and you're the only person that I would not be single for, And so he seemed to appreciate that. Like I was I was starting to feel that. I was starting to think that way. Like I went on a walk and that occurred to me. And then I told my friend, when I told her about the story, I was like, I think it's a good place to be though, because it reminds me that like I'm way more honest with him than I think I am with other partners. And I don't get afraid of him leaving me. And it's not because I don't care if he leaves me. It's more like I'm so okay with who I am and what I was doing before that if I had to, we could go back to that. But I want to work things out with him. And I think the big way to not do that is to keep quiet about things and stay repressed and not bring up issues. So I think because I don't have that fear, and also he makes me feel very secure in our relationship that he's not going to leave me over everything. There's this really good balance of being independent and knowing I could make it by myself, and also knowing that just because I am who I am or do what I want to do, he's not going to leave me over everything. So it's like this really good balance of being together and knowing that if anything went wrong, we could both be independent on our own. So it's very interesting, kind of thing there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I have thought about that lately. It's like, well, am I going to go out of town on my birthday by myself? Probably not. Those days are probably over for me. If I do them, I know he would he would be okay with me doing that. He might be a little sad, but if I needed it, I'm sure he would let me do that. But, just goes to show we got to enjoy where we are in our life when we're in it. Cause I know that I've done those solo trips myself. And if I never get him again and I'm with him, that's where we are, So.
Beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations.
Thanks. It's a good feeling. It's definitely one that I always thought relationships should feel this way. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like, this is what I always pictured. So yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So yeah, James. Let's see. What else what's on your mind right now? What else is going on up there?
Yeah, well, I guess I still feel more juiciness or ripeness in what we're talking about, at least to share with the audience or for the audience, of, again, this comfortability within oneself, or even being confident in oneself, or working towards building that stability or security, whether it's contributor or help, done in a helpful way with the partner, or whether it is done independently. And so, obviously, I think there are some layers or levels of, or let's just say this, when partnerships begin, it is a ripe opportunity for insecurities to pop up. And then it is a special thing to have a person to work through those with, or to help balance out some of that energy with, as well as, not everybody has the benefit to do that in partnership. But obviously there's still opportunities to do that, whether they're in family, situations, or with friendships, or even through self-exploration. So there's opportunities to do self-reflection, or to attend workshops to where someone can gain another level of comfort, or gain another level of insight, or gain another level of security or stability. It's more so, I like to call it interdependence, because to me, that's always, for a while now, at least that's been like the middle ground between independence and codependence. I've always liked that word interdependence, to where a person or a situation can stand alone, and then also be enhanced, stand alone and be sufficient, or be, just be wonderful, just be spectacular in an independent, functional, or beneficial in an independent way, or singular way. And then at the same time, when it's combined or matched with a different person or a different energy or frequency, it gets enhanced. And so, that's one thing I definitely want to make clear and touch on with the audience is like, it's beneficial both ways.
Yeah. I like I feel like codependency has become such like a buzzword or just one of those words that pop up a lot, especially with inner work and things like that. And I'll say that do I want to say I'm codependent on my boyfriend? Probably. I mean, but the thing is, like now I've realized if it is codependency, maybe I don't know the real, the actual word for it or the real definition. That's what I mean. I may not know the correct definition because for me, it's like, I realized a long time that I was so self-sufficient and so independent that it was one of those like, I don't want to use that word, but like, it was just a response from how I grew up, and always feeling like I needed to do things myself and I could only count on myself. I didn't want to ask anybody for help. And so, it's been really nice to actually have someone in my life that I could trust. And I also think like just through my relationship with him, I realized it's not always that I don't want to inconvenience people and ask them for help. It's like I also don't trust them to help me and to have good intentions when they help me. Like they don't want something in return. Like my boyfriend, I know he will do whatever for me, and I don't have to pay him back, or I don't have to he's not keeping count of all the things that I do. If he's listening and he does have a count, he needs to let me know that. But so far, I've never felt like he was actually the first guy in a really long time that when we went on a date, he's the only guy I ever let pay for my food. And at least on the first date. And that was really specific because I just did not like for men to buy me food. I always felt like there was an extra layer of expectation when a guy would buy me food. And for some reason, I let him buy my food. I have really no idea why I let him do that because that's like one of my things. But I think it was probably something in me just already feeling comfortable around him. I don't know, because that shocked me when I let him do that. But yeah, I've actually enjoyed learning how to trust someone enough to do things for me, to complete tasks, to do a task without me watching him do it and trusting that he will do it correctly. And even just small things. I would say it's gotten so much that sometimes, I hate to say it, sometimes I expect him to do certain things, not in a way that like I'll get mad at him if he doesn't, but I'll be surprised if he did it. Like I'm like, oh, you didn't do this already? That's kind of okay. Well, I'll do it. And then, so it's really nice. It's really nice to have somebody that kind of thinks about my needs sometimes before I even think about them. That's been cool. But yeah, it's different. It's different.
Oh, cool.
It is.
And I guess now, would you say that you've, just from previous conversations, would you say you've worked up to, it's been a gradual, you like worked up to this point, or it's been increasing over time? Is that kind of like the feeling of the scenario?
With me and him, or just in general with trusting people and things like that?
Both.
I think I have been better about asking for help over the last few years. I've had some really generous offers that I took, even though it was very hard for me to take people up on these offers. So yeah, I think little by little, but always just with people I trusted. Never with, and it didn't matter how helpful or something was. If I didn't think that I trusted that person fully, like they weren't a best friend of mine, I wasn't accepting certain things. And yeah. So, but in a relationship, yeah, no, never, no. Mm-mm. No one's ever really proved that they had like, and I don't even know how to explain it. I didn't set to talk about this. I should journal about it. But I've just never had someone that I could just trust with things, and like I said, not hold them over my head. Mm-hmm. There was definitely walls I had around other partners. And it wasn't until I met him that I realized they were all there. Because before, I will say this to anybody that questions their walls, I think now that I've met him, I don't think I'll ever question those things again. Like, I know sometimes people feel like, oh, I should really trust this person. This doesn't matter with like relationships, friendships, work relationships, whatever. If you are feeling some kind of like, don't know if I should trust this person. I used to judge myself really heavily for that and thinking that I was just being judgmental or I was traumatized, all these things. And he's the first person that like, I don't even really feel like I had to put the walls down. I just really trusted him. Like there was just something there that I didn't feel like the walls were coming up much with him at all. If I just haven't felt them with him. So in the past, I feel like there were certain aspects to these people that were in my life, that I was identifying that they weren't going to work with my energy. They just weren't. And I judge myself a lot for that. You look like you're smiling a little bit, James. What are you thinking about?
I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. You got this like smirk and I'm like, all right, I just want to hear what that thought is in your head. But yeah, it's just, I actually told somebody else that in a reading like a week ago. I told her, you're really nice and that's okay. And that's great that you're nice. But that voice in your head that wonders if you should trust somebody, it's not always there it's not always a bad thing. And you're not a bad person for wondering if you should trust this person. Sometimes that voice is really telling you that you need to tread lightly with this person. And that's not usually messages I give in reading. So I was actually very surprised by that one. So it's always different in every reading, but yeah, definitely feel like I've let down some walls, but definitely have felt the need and I felt very justified in, acknowledging when things come up and I feel that red flag or I feel like something's like buzzing, like do not go in that direction. My intuition, basically, I feel that was my intuition coming through in that moment. And, it's been a journey trusting those instincts of mine.
Yeah. So. I'm glad it's gone in this direction because I feel like that's a very key part, or at least in my journey and my path or my comprehension of navigating life is being able to trust or be in connection or listen to one's intuition. And even if it's almost like that saying, and again, this is my lens on it. It's almost like that saying, like the teacher will appear when the student is ready, or that saying of what someone is seeking, it's seeking them. Mm-hmm. And so like, I feel that there's like this continuum of refinement that takes place, or potential of refinement, if one chooses to look at it that way, that continues to happen until that right synchronicity, when I say right, but the accurate synchronicity of the specific desire or intention or focus. This actually kind of touches on when we talk about law of attraction a bit, or one lens viewpoint of law of attraction, right, is that but that aspect of life or experiences or that opportunity for like, oh, this is like someone's actually ready for what they're asking for. Like I might ask for something, but they may not necessarily, oh, this is actually a good point. And I can't remember if I brought this up before, but when I was having a previous session, and now I feel like I'm getting vulnerable, so I'll just be cognizant of that. Someone asked me what qualities do I want in a life partner, and I've made a list before of qualities in a life partner, but for some reason when they said it, it felt, and they asked me and I thought about it, it felt way, way, way different. When they said life, it felt like confinement. It felt like a jail sentence. It felt like Yeah, I was just like, wait a minute. What do you mean life? You know, what I mean? I was like, I was like, I could think about a few years. I could project into this, that, and the third of companionship, but life. But now, in saying that, I'm aware that part of my psyche, or part of my process, is that I do judge or view situations like that. I was like, oh, what are the characteristics of this person? Can I tolerate this or put up with this, or can I experience this long term? And somehow that when he asked me that question, that brought in this new awareness that part of me either didn't agree with a life partner, or wasn't in agreement with the life partner, having a life partner. And so that was a nice twitch or tweak of like, oh, okay. Yeah, part of my psyche is like, or part of my persona is a little bit conflicted, because one part does look for that, does look for those qualities, yet one part of me kind of resisted at the same time. And so I feel like that's something that happens in different scenarios, is people want this, want certain things, or want certain situations, and piece of it may come, or parts of it may come, or and then other parts other things get exposed to be like, oh, okay, I am aware of, like you said, maybe a wall that was there that I wasn't quite, I am aware of a blockage or a wall, or some sort of resistance that's kind of agitating or causing a delay in the experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. Felt like a jail sentence. Now,
so now let me just be clear. It doesn't, part of it, and, part of it, I'm going to talk it out. Like, I'm getting new, again, audience, I'm getting new to being fully transparent or more transparent with the public like that. Because I'm used to just talking in private, one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
So then it kind of, again, went to like childhood stuff and just asking about what type of relationships that I view in childhood. And so at this point, I won't go into detail because, again, I do enjoy certain aspects of privacy, but just witnessed when I kind of matched it to what I saw growing up and the different examples I saw growing up, I see where that kind of unconscious feeling or program or whatever one wants to call it could come from.
Yeah.
Of like, wait a minute, I want this, but then I actually maybe don't even believe in it, or don't even see it for myself, sort of thing. And so, it's interesting. And now that I even say that, it's also like, I hear it now when sometimes people say, when some people want kids but don't want kids, or when I think about like how I grew up and I thought I was have kids early, but then now like I'm kind of like in the middle. I mean, actually, just to be honest, I probably do. Part of me still strongly does want kids, or I see myself with a kid. Let's just say that I do see myself with a kid. I don't always. Oh, that's just interesting. I don't always feel it though, and so even if I'm talking about manifesting, or being congruent for a situation, that feeling makes a difference. Even if I want to connect it back to us talking about intuition, that actually feeling it or believing it, or even as Joe Dispenza and other teachers talk about, when a feeling or when a thought gets into the unconscious mind, settles into when that feeling kicks in. So that's interesting. That's a dynamic to play with, or to observe rather. It's like, sometimes mentally I may want situations consciously or psychologically, but a part of me doesn't always feel it. And so,
that's an interesting distinction. I do wonder if I've ever thought about that distinction before, even when like I know all those principles as well, the ones where, they say to meditate on it, feel it, visualize it. Is that what you mean? Like you can't really visualize it, or to manifest the feeling of it? Like Is that what you?
It is. It's also like that essence of reading a book at one age or stage in life and then reading it at another point, and it has a whole different kind of meaning to it as well. So like I would say, like, I studied the law of attraction heavily from like 2007 to 2011. And then it was probably about 4 or 5 years after that. It was probably like, just certain things, once I started to do other stuff, kind of kicked in that I wasn't doing during those 4 years. And so like the feeling of it, yes. And the like the deep feeling, almost like, okay, this is probably a good way to put it. Some thoughts come out of the subconscious or the unconscious like in a nanosecond. Like they just happen, they're not controllable. Like they happen faster than people can even think of. They're just on autopilot. So like those feelings can be a little bit deeper than something I can control, is basically what I'm saying. Like kind of getting things to a point to where it's so unconscious to where, oh, how do I manage this? How do I control it? How do I be aware of it? Or now actually, now that I have awareness of it, what do I do with it? And so it's feeling on that level of like, I can't really always control this, but at least now I'm aware of it, and maybe some people may not even be aware of, okay, their unconscious thoughts or their unconscious feelings. Just like I was saying, I wasn't aware that part of me was incongruent and didn't agree with felt that way about a life partner until that specific moment. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I haven't, I think I've been thinking about this question. Now, maybe it goes with what we're talking about, maybe it doesn't, but like, what are your thoughts on like when people manifest something, but they're not ready for it and they lose it? Like, what are like, cause you were saying something about like the law of attraction and then like feeling it and then it coming to you. But I had a friend recently that felt like she manifested something and then she said, I don't think I'm ready for it. I'm going to lose it. And I said, well, if you weren't ready for it, then it wouldn't be here, and then we had a whole conversation about it. Do you have a thought on that?
My thought on that is kind of, again, like a similar vein of what you shared in previously, as far as like the world only has the meaning that we give it. And so I feel like there's space and room for a person. Let's just take positive thinking, for instance. Man, I just read something earlier. I think I have it written down. But it talked about positive thinking. I can't fully find it. Anywho, it talked about positive thinking, and with a person that has positive thinking, there is no failure. There's only delay. And so it almost takes a person who's a certain level, because I'm not going to say everybody's 100% all the time, either or. It takes a certain level of optimism. It takes a certain level of, okay, what is the glass half full, and being receptive to that, or programmed to that, or reprogrammed to that, to find the benefit or find the gift. There's like this old saying that says, winners find a way to win and losers find a way to lose. So that's always stuck with me as well, because if a person feels like they're a loser, then that feeling, which can sometimes overpower thinking, someone's thoughts, they might paint a picture like they lost in the situation.
Right.
And so very similarly, if this person is on a wavelength or feeling like they're a winner or has a winner's mindset, they just might view a situation as a temporary setback or like a road bump. Like, okay, I hit a bump. Okay, well, let me hop back in the seat and keep it going. And so very similarly, like many situations happen, and to some level, some degree, it's up for that person to make a decision on what that situation represents to them. Now, mind you, they can get outside influences, like you say, you share with your friend, some wise advice, and so she has a palette of opportunity to make a decision based on what she wants out of life.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because at the end of our conversation, I was telling her, I was like, it doesn't sound like you like this opportunity, and like I think I basically said, I feel like instead of worrying like this is the only time it's going to come along, I think you shouldn't feel that way. Like this may be here right now to show you something, and then the reason you're holding on to it is because you're afraid it won't come around again. Like trust your intuition, trust where that's leading you, and you're going to be fine either way. And so she ultimately, I think, decided to let go of that opportunity. And that was awesome. Like, but I was like, you're saying a lot of shoulds and woulds in here. And I just don't believe in life that I'm trying personally, for me, I'm trying to shift myself from the word I need to do to I want to do, and I should do to I want to do. Like when it comes to podcasting, journaling, yoga, all of these things can turn into a chore so fast, when really they were things I put in my day because I really wanted to do them at one time. And so anytime I'm even journaling and I say, I need to do this today, I keep writing and I say, I want to do this today. And it feels so much better. Like one is very confined, and the other version is very much like, oh, I'm so open to this. I'm open to the opportunity. I'm open to receiving, and I want to be there. And so I'm really enjoying that shift, because anytime I tell myself I should do something, like, what if I don't get around to it? Then I start to feel shameful. I start to feel behind. I start to feel like, I can't keep up with my own life. And, you know what? It is what it is, man. Like that's what it is. And that's how I feel about it. But yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. No, it's definitely an openness to experiencing life, or a multitude of ways to experience life. Which is, I guess, sharing with the audience, which is the aspect I like even in sharing. I like there being like an openness or balance in perspective. Let's just call it that. Because, and even I guess for audience, that's usually why, that's one of the reasons I often in my language, I use I or my perspective or me. I talk about myself, because it's also giving acknowledgement that different people are at different stages in their journey. And then part of my intention is that I hope just people's, whatever reflection they see in what I'm saying about my own story, about myself, they pick up on it when they pick up on it, if it's meant for them to pick up on. And so, yeah. It's my, I say my, but it's a personal style of sharing, while at the same time, I do like even different voices, different way of communication resonates with different people. And I think that's the beauty of life too, is, it's like, it's a gift. It's a gift, taking that time out to reflect and see what resonates, see what doesn't resonate, see maybe why it's not resonating, or, see what could be tweaked, if anything. Like I feel, especially in talking about relationships or partnerships, whether those relationships are friendships or family members and so forth, or even community members, it's like, what is working? What is, I guess just to talk about it, like I'm grateful for the situations that do work long term and that do work, like it's very clear that, okay, this can kind of get worked out with this person, or this can get worked out with these group of people, or this could get worked out in this setting. And like you were saying, I'm willing to do that, or there's enough space to do it. Yeah. And so, yeah. And I guess even the whole season thing, and again, I'm just speaking about myself, like, cause I had a friend who I felt that way with, but then our friendship ran its course. It lasted for maybe about 5 years. But then like once I grew, I don't think the friendship grew with it or with me, or like the other person didn't grow with me. That's probably the most accurate thing. Or we didn't grow in the same direction. Right. And so it took a minute. It was kind of tough at first, and it still has a little bit of residual. But there was a part of me that returns back to like, oh, it was time for that to end, or it was time for that it was time for that chapter to close and kind of grow into a new chapter, within a different setting or a different situation or a different type of connection with other people. And so, life is peculiar. It's funny. It could be a river, meandering river, in some ways.
And I hope like this isn't like gonna bring anybody down, or, kind of like I was talking earlier, how I was listening to that podcast about easing into death and learning how to let go before really needing to let go. And I think last week on the podcast, we talked about a family member of mine passed away. I don't know if we said that. I don't remember. Oh, we didn't say it. Okay. And so, and I feel like we both experienced loss, within the past month. And also this past week, my boss experienced a loss of someone very close to him. And when I was at work today, he and I were sharing about it. And, there is something so beautiful at remembering the life and also learning how to let go of it. Like even for me, like processing, seeing my boss, processing the person that passed away in his family, that was really important in my person. And it's like, it's so amazing to hear about how it went, like their life, their beautiful life, and then finding the beauty in the ending of it all. And with all these transitions so back to back in my current reality, it's really helped me, I think, to let go even more. You're talking about like letting go of friendships and stuff, but I think that those could also be a good moment to, like, when moments in life are done, to allow them to be what they were, so that they can remain beautiful, actually, in a way, because the finality of it all makes us look all on it in such a beautiful light. But, when there's relationships and people still meandering on the earth, and we're like, oh, we don't talk anymore, there can be such a resentment there. And even like I've felt that. But I think in later years, and I'll share this with other friends too, they're even old partners that I've had that I was just so mad at them. But now that those relationships are actually done, like actually over, as in I haven't talked to these people in 2-3 years. Some of them I don't really care for, but other ones I'm like, oh my gosh, we had such a great time. And it just, and there's no feeling to open that door again. But, and now, because I don't feel like there's a door to open again, that chapter really feels closed, like I actually get to enjoy the memory of that. And so I just wish in life there were, I think actually not wishing, but with these transitions lately and remembering everybody's like beautiful life and what they brought to the world, it's kind of made me think of that in like situations too. It's like, just let it be what it was and honor it for what it was and let it be, let it go. And, that's happened a lot over the past couple of weeks, that thought. So.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. I like to use the word, awareness of, again, possibilities. Because even if I think of having awareness at a certain stage in life, like for instance, when speaking about death, some people, some traditions view every night going to sleep as a death, and waking up, the next day is a new day. There's moments, there can be a death of an old pattern or a thought pattern in a moment, with that awareness of like, okay, this is old. You know what I mean? Like this way of life, this way of thinking, this way of feeling is old. I may not be able to control it or manage it fully in this moment, but at least I'm aware of it. And that can make room for new opportunities or new outcomes or new possibilities going forward. Which is the same way we started out talking about celebrating a birthday. Each year, there's a cycle that happens every year. Some traditions view cycles in years, stages of year, years of 6 or years of 7, certain specific cycles. But each year, like you asked me, do I take that time out to reflect? Someone can look back on their year. They could look back on their day. They could look back on their month and bring that awareness of like, okay, I'm going to let this go, or I'm going to honor this day or this month or this job or this experience for what it was and move forward. Or even just this incident. I mean, sometimes, again, arguments, and that goes back to a little bit of what I was saying about the teacher showing up when the student is ready, or a situation unfolding the way it does when the individual is ready for it, or ready for it to unfold that way. When I say ready, but able for it to unfold that way. Because if I did, you know what I mean? Like if I did have this awareness like 5, 6, 7 years ago when arguments were arising or situations were arising, I might have addressed it differently, or I might have differences. Let's just call it differences. I might have addressed it differently, and the outcome might have been different. But I responded or reacted to the level of awareness that I was at, or the level of emotional, capacity or intelligence, or that I had in that moment. And so I feel like that's a part of it as well too, of death of an old persona or an old person. Because even if I look at a situation, a version of me was connected to a previous version of me was connected to that previous situation. So essentially, a previous version of me has also passed away. So much, just as much as my perspective of the other person. It's like who I was. And I feel like that's a huge thing in growth as well, too, because especially in this day and age, and now we have like social media and everything's captured on video and photographs and stuff, and posted and recorded. Like even people who knew me 10 years ago, I mean, some aspects are the same.
Right.
But even someone I dated 10 years ago, it would damn near be completely different. Like I'm not the same person. You get what I'm saying? Like, or someone I might have worked with 10 years, like or let's just say partied with or hung out with 10 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. Not the same person I was 5 years ago. And so it's like, each year there's a level of growth or a level of change or shift. And that part I'm thankful for, because that is what I'm focused on. So.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that, like in regards to my personal podcast, because I took down all those episodes. I think that's probably why. Like back then, there was a version of me that would share a lot more, and now I don't want to share as much, at least in like the detail that I do. So, and I've been struggling. I've been thinking about putting them all back up just to show, because the point of that podcast was to show the evolution, and it wasn't to just present the version of myself that I am today, but to show the journey of that person.
Right.
So I've been going back and forth with that a good bit of taking all the drafts out and putting them back where they belong. But it's definitely going back and forth, because I struggle with that on my TikTok as well. There's times where I I want to just change my content completely or take down all my old videos and start over fresh. And there are people that would never do that. And I'm over here like, oh, I create like a new Instagram every year or two because the content just doesn't feel like me anymore. And, but I also like to archive and I like to have a little history of myself, but I don't always like to show people that historical version of me either. I'd like to just move forward with who I am today and make a record of her and then make a new Instagram in another 2 years because I don't know, something about it. I don't like people looking through. It's like people looking through my diary or just like revisiting an old version of me that I'm like, she doesn't exist anymore, but okay, go take a gander.
Well, that's it. I'm smiling for two reasons. Because I remember at one point in your podcasting, I remember you sharing that was like part of your intention. And just like you wanted to be like really expressive and sharing and I don't know if the word is vulnerable, but let's just say expose.
Oh, yeah, probably. Oh, very.
You wanted to put it, you know what I mean? You want to be, share it all. And, and then also too, I'm thinking about a previous reference that you made about, it was something to music. And so when you were saying that, I was thinking of it like an artist that has albums. And so like when they made an album 10 years ago, like one of your favorite artists, Taylor Swift.
Yes.
Who she was 10 years ago necessarily on that album doesn't represent who she is from this day on that album and on her current album. And on some level, I guess it is up to, and I'm just really just thinking about Beyonce because I'm thinking of like how I remember her going through her journey of the Destiny's Child thing and then the solo artist and then now, becoming the married woman and and I guess it's up to the audience to decide who, what, and what they resonate with. Because I mean, some of her current stuff, I don't resonate with it, and I think some of it is I mean, but to her, it's, it is,
It's funny that you bring up Taylor Swift because I've actually wondered a lot about how she feels about re-recording her old albums because she has to, she's doing that so that she can own her masters. Like she couldn't own the original ones, and so she's re-recording everything. And I'm like, oh my God, that would be torture for me. Mm-hmm. And there's also something about it that feels a little lost because her voice is different. It's different than when she was at 16. So something about me, like thinking about having to re-record, like if I made a podcast when I was 16, even if I said all the words the same, my voice has a different tone. Gotcha. And something about that kind of enrages me that not only like she can't own that version of her own music with that tone of her voice. Like she has to re-record it in this one. And there's also something really beautiful in it that she gets to re-record like the songs she wrote back then and reflect on where she was and bring this older version of herself to the same melody and the same, I mean, it's all really, really cool. And I actually got to hear her talk about that. She actually mentioned how fun it's been to re-record all that because part of me was like, I would crawl in a hole and die, having to re-record things that I felt when I was 16 versus, 30. It feels a little weird, but, she says she's really enjoyed it. And I don't know what that's like, but yeah, I love Taylor Swift because actually I started liking her in her older years because of her boldness to switch things up and to be like a genre jumper and express herself in music however she wants and doesn't let anybody kind of box her into what she can make. And she doesn't even let people buy her masters and she just lays down and takes it. She re-records that stuff. So I think it's all very like bold and she really takes control of her future and the version of herself she wants to be. So I love it.
Beautiful. And audience members, I have a big smile on my face as well too. And this part may get edited out, but it's because Ray is also has quite a voice and musical gift as well too. But I will say that piece about it, and then I'll continue sharing on a different topic.
I know. I was thinking about that recently. I I was just thinking about like spiritual practices and how much singing can be a spiritual practice. And I've been wondering if I should just sing by myself in my room more often, just different songs. Because it's something there's something to singing, especially if you really enjoy doing it, that I don't do it as much anymore. So.
And so I heard actually something similar. And I heard something similar with Andre 3000 with Outkast. So a lot of reasons, I say a lot of reasons, but at least I read and saw in an interview that he didn't enjoy it. He reached a point in his life where he didn't enjoy or resonate with the songs that they made when they were in the Outkast group. So that's part of the present reasons that they haven't toured or tour frequently or do as many concerts as other artists, popular artists and musicians, because he didn't feel comfortable performing those songs.
Wow.
And so, again, to go back to talking about birth and life and cycles, it's like, what is our, maybe this is a question for us and to the audience members, like, what is the connection between who I am today and a previous version of myself? Because another thing I thought about is I've heard Jay-Z say one time in an interview, well, anywho, it popped in my head about, in some cases, I don't mind, like even when certain friends from previous situations or have to go to certain places, like I don't mind a brief visit to a previous setting version or whatever of myself, but I definitely can't live there.
Right.
And so I can visit there temporarily depending on the context and the purpose and the intent. But I can't live there.
Yeah.
And so I'm totally, again, a different person. And so, and enjoy, express and enjoy and think differently, operate differently. So, yeah.
What did you say Jay-Z said?
Oh, he was doing an interview and he just made a joke because they gave him like a office chair or some like measly chair to sit in. And the host was like, I hope that chair is okay for you to sit in because obviously, being of a certain status or whatever. And he was just like, I can take it back for a minute. So, like, he was like, he was saying a joke, but he was like, how long are we here for?
That's funny. Yeah, I love it. It's quick.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that
funny.
scenario. It's like, especially if somebody's like being humorous. It's like, I could take it back for a minute,
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of truth. I forget how you phrased it, but the old me is always in the new me. I wouldn't be here without her and her lessons and her experiences, so maybe I'll find a way to honor that. That's where I'm at right now, because I think part of me wanted to just hide all that old content, not because I wasn't proud of it, but because I just didn't know if I was comfortable sharing as much anymore. And, just the idea that people could just flip through that whenever they wanted just irked me. But I do think I'm really here. One of my missions is to just be an example of a journey. And I don't really care how that manifests or, I think for a little while there, I got caught up in my head on caring about how that manifests and not wanting to show that journey anymore and be like, okay, I'm not about the journey anymore. And I'm about this life. But I really like the journey and I really like just keeping it moving and learning how to get up when you fall down and how to trust yourself, how to have confidence, like how to just keep the vision alive and not really caring about how long it takes, but enjoying the community it brings and the lessons it brings and the consistency and stability it brings sometimes. So there's just like so many parts of the journey that I think I've taken for granted. And when I come back to reality, I always feel really good about the steps I've taken. And if any, they're how I learn, showing up for my craft all the time, like my practice and my craft, like journaling. If I hadn't, I could show you all the journals I have. Like if I hadn't written in all those journals, I don't know if I'd be this person today.
Exactly.
Like every morning. Like, what in the world? I don't know who I would be.
Right.
So, it's crazy.
Beautiful. So, everyone, I think we can go ahead. That sounds like a nice ending to a beautiful episode. Again, talking about just if anything came up, especially in our conversations about honoring ourselves or self-care or celebrating birthdays and maybe doing a annual review or daily review or monthly review of what one may be ready to let go of, or death of an old pattern.
A morning review, since we die at night and wake in the morning.
Review. Honestly,
or a nightly review.
But just a tidbit. I don't really you never really hear me say good morning. Like I always say greetings. And that's because morning sounds too much like morning. MOURNING. And so I often use the term greetings because that just resonates. It has a different frequency for me. And
well, now that we're talking about, dying at night, it could be a good morning. We're grateful
that's true too.
For the rebirth.
That's true. So if someone, if y'all resonate, whoever resonates with that, that's a new level or a new layer to your good morning statement. It's like, I'm mourning who I was yesterday. And so,
sorry to cut you off. You were talking about, let us know your thoughts, whatever it is that came up for you in the episode. Follow us on YouTube and on the podcast if you haven't already. Email us your thoughts and topics that you want for us to cover. I'd really love to see a topic from someone. I would love to talk about something they want to talk about. So that would be cool.
Yeah. And just to recap, this is a beautiful recap to even an energy that myself and as Ray shared, multiple people that I'm close to have experienced too. Is like we both had losses. Like, I had a close friend of mine pass away recently, and as Ray shared, she had a close family member, a person within her family pass. And so we both were dealing with these feelings, and we didn't go too much into it in other episodes, but to kind of reach this place or this culmination of that honoring life and death. And so, or what that whole balance of the both, or the blend of the both. And so, thank y'all thank you, Ray, for being here. And thank you, audience members, for being here. And until then, subscribe, like, share, comment, post, email. That's all I got.
Alrighty. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Toodaloo.
That's funny.